you for joining us for today's session. We will be listening to Katie Weeks, or engaging with Katie Weeks, as she provides content for us today. And as I open up my screen, I want to first start by thanking you for being here, but also say that I want to create an open and brave space for you to have dialogue and to communicate with each other. If you can, mute yourselves until there's time for those interactions. Also, you can utilize the chat screen. When there comes to a point where you want to ask a question that is specifically about your organization, we will have time for that Q&A at the end, and I will cut off the recording so that you can have those private moments to ask those direct questions. So I would like to introduce our topic of the day. Is called Unlocking Potential to Empower Nonprofit Leaders. This program will be designed for nonprofit leaders seeking professional and personal growth. This workshop will dive into the concepts of positive intelligence as a tool for unlocking your potential. There will be some self-reflection and activities for participants to learn in a framework to overcome their limitations and live with a greater ease. So Katie Weeks is a senior advisor at Armstrong McGuire. She brings 20 years of nonprofit fund development and experience primarily focused in the arts. Katie has served as the Director of Development for the First Stage of the nation's largest professional theater companies for young audiences, and as the Vice President of Development for the United Performing Arts Fund in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where she managed a $10 million annual campaign. I would love to learn how to do that myself. Katie also focuses on executive search, executive coaching, intentional engaging board members, staff, and volunteers, and facilitates staff and board retreats. She has completed the Authentic Leadership Coaching coursework through the Raleigh Coaching Academy of Positive Intelligence coursework, and is a TTI certified in DISC and driving forces. She is a graduate of the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, where she double majored in theater and communications. And in October 2015, her family relocated to Raleigh, and in 2020, they relocated to Charlotte. She served as the president of the Wake County affiliate board through the North Carolina Community Foundation, and as a volunteer and board member with a variety of arts, education, and social service organizations. And this is why we are excited to bring her expertise to our table today. So Katie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of background, but I appreciate it. It's kind of fun to think about where we've been and where we're going. I would love to invite you to drop in the chat your name, your organization, if you have a title or something, just to tell us a little bit about kind of how you enter this space. I would love to hear that. Given we have a small group, and I see Penelope, you're popping off of mute, maybe some of you can't type and would feel more comfortable just introducing yourself, since we're small and mighty today. Penelope, I saw you come off mute. Do you want to just share who you are and a little bit about your context?
Yes, I'm not sure if that's because I can't type is because I'm on my phone or not, but I'm an artist, art teacher. I just started a artist guild in my town, and I used to teach public school, but I'm now just kind of teaching on my own, art classes, that kind of thing, but wanting to get more organized, I guess, with an organization.
Excellent. Thanks, Penelope.
You're welcome.
Ruthie, I see you posted. Arts and Cultural Events Coordinator for the town of Kiowa. That's awesome. We've celebrated New Year's in Kiowa a couple of years and just love it.
We just got hit with the tropical storm Debbie, so we've been dealing with that for the past couple of days. But other than the hurricanes, it's a very beautiful place.
Yes, it's a wild day. I'm sure that's why some folks couldn't make it, because we're all dealing with wild rain and storms. And Charleston, Meg, You got hit too. I was just in Charleston this past weekend. Meg, you are with Heal with Hearts. Welcome. We are Megan. Is it Megan? I see you're on chat. Okay. Welcome. We are Meg. Okay. Thank you, Meg. So glad you're here. And Becky, welcome. How are you? You're on mute. Do you want to just, there you are.
Now,
Hi, Becky.
I do public relations for the Four Holes Indian Tribe organization,
Awesome.
and I write some grants for them as well. And I'm also an artist.
Excellent. You are a helpful person for that organization writing grants. We appreciate that. Well, thank you for those introductions. It's always helpful to know kind of who's in the room. I'm curious, and I am going to allow you to kind of keep coming on and off of mute just since we are small. What would be possible for you if you were less stressed? Less overwhelmed?
I think for me, I would be able to create more, like physically create and get my hands dirty to make more things.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I find it hard to be innovative when you're stressed and overwhelmed because you're so worried about keeping all of those plates in the air that it's hard to even think about, you know, how could we improve our current process because you're so focused on just making that current process work.
Mm-hmm. Almost the liking of like the doing, the checking the list of the check boxes versus the being, really engaging and being present. Becky, how about you? Anything specific that comes to mind? What would be possible if you were less stressed, less overwhelmed?
I don't really know. I'm at an age when I don't worry a lot. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I have learned in being involved with a number of nonprofits, I've been the director of a shelter for abused women and children. I'm retired. But I've learned that the most important thing is to just follow directions. Mm-hmm. And if I follow directions, I'll get it done.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, I thank you. Meg, I know you're not coming off of mute, but if there's anything you want to share, please reach out and let us know. You do more of your own artwork. Excellent. Yes, we would dive more into our own creativity. That is wonderful. So as was shared, I am a senior advisor with Armstrong McGuire. My background is 15 years in raising money for the arts. I have been doing project-based work with Armstrong McGuire the last 8 years. I spend most of my time in our leadership development space, which is where we do a lot of executive search, a lot of board and staff retreats, a lot of team and staff coaching. Armstrong McGuire also works in the space of strategy and in the space of fund development. But I find myself at my best when I'm working with people. And so as I started getting into executive search work, I found that I could have a position profile or a job description right up next to a resume, and they could be a perfect match for one another. But when that person got into the role, it didn't mean they were necessarily overly successful. And I got really curious, like, what was that? What was that thing that made someone really successful versus the thing that didn't? And that is what motivated me to do my coaching coursework, my coaching, extending myself as more of a coach and understanding what it means to be at our best and live closer to our own authentic selves. So that's where my journey kind of is. And that is what I continue to uncover. And one of the things that I have uncovered through my experiences is the Positive Intelligence Program. And that is what we are going to spend our time talking about today, because I find that it is really fundamental to being at our best, unlocking our best self, and living a carefree, positive life. So I do have some slides to talk us through. We are going to continue to have a conversation, but that was just a little bit about me. Can you all see my screen okay? Excellent. And this is a little bit about Armstrong McGuire. This is the firm I work with. The firm is based in Raleigh. We've been around for 20 years, and we walk alongside nonprofit and philanthropic organizations throughout the country. So my why do I care about this? Why is this important to me? It is because I work with nonprofit leaders and artists specifically a lot. And constantly I'm hearing how stressed people are. I'm hearing how overwhelmed they are. I'm hearing how burnt out they are, and just how challenging it is to manage all of those multiple projects and activities that they have going on. And there simply isn't enough peace. There isn't enough well-being. There isn't enough ease in their day-to-day work. And so through all of that, what I've noticed is that there's not a consistent tool or a consistent framework that supports our wellness, both our professional wellness and our overall life wellness. And that's what I believe PQ can offer us. So positive intelligence is really mental fitness. It is the idea that our capacity to respond to life's challenges with a positive rather than a negative mindset, right? It's that resilience. It's that ability to be able to have a challenge come your way and overcome it with ease and quickly. And quite honestly, it can impact your work performance. There can be direct impact on your overall wellness and well-being, and very direct impact on your relationships. So positive intelligence has been founded by this gentleman by the name of Shirzad Chamine. He is a Stanford researcher, and he has taken positive psychology, neuroscience, performance science, cognitive psychology, and taken all of that research and really developed the positive intelligence program kind of with all of those different modalities at the center of it. The research has gone on to impact and engage hundreds of CEOs, hundreds of teams. Stanford students have done a lot of the research, athletes, 500 plus participants, multiple different countries. So this is not just a US-based program or framework. It is accepted in many different countries. And this research has been summarized in his book, Positive Intelligence. And I share that with you to just sort of give you kind of the context of where this comes from, right? It isn't just someone one day being like, oh, let's do this. It's grounded in research. It's grounded in years of studying how people live their best life. And what he did with all of that information is the power of factor analysis. The power of factor analysis is all about identifying the root causes of something and having radical simplification of whatever it is we're studying. So as artists, you probably will appreciate this idea of factor analysis. While there are thousands of colors in the world, the root of all of the colors are 3 factors, right? The root of colors are red, blue, and yellow. And so by using factor analysis, positive intelligence has been created to share that there are really only 3 core muscles that are the root of our mental fitness, of our mental wellness. They are the saboteur, interceptor, the sage, and self-command. And that is what we're going to spend our time talking about, are those 3 components and how those 3 components can impact your wellness. So based on all of that factor analysis and all of that research, there have been 10 saboteurs identified. through radical simplification, there are really 10 negative emotions that impact us negatively and actually sabotage our ability and our happiness. They're actually on the left side of your brain is where the majority of those saboteurs live. So if you think about your brain, the left side is physically where a lot of those negative emotions are coming from. And then on the right side, through radical simplification, there are 5 sage powers that we can build within ourselves to help us overcome those negative saboteurs. So our saboteurs are valuable. They can be valuable, right? They can motivate us to get things done, to have a high attention to detail. And they can move us towards greater success. But the saboteurs do that through negative emotion. They're empowering us through feelings of fear and stress, feelings of guilt or shame, right? They're motivating you, but they're motivating you through a negative emotion. Whereas when we activate the right side of our brain, the creative side, the side that when you are creating yourself and creating your own art, when that side of your brain is activated, you are more motivated through positive emotions. Empathy being one of the main positive emotions. Curiosity. Creativity. Purpose. Deep purpose comes when we are activating the right side of our brain. So our saboteurs, left side of our brain, they might generate success, right? You might be pushed towards greater outcomes or pushed towards success. But it doesn't necessarily also provide happiness or contentment or wellness. Whereas when we are more right brain focused and in using our sage powers, we can generate our highest success and also our deepest well-being and deepest sense of happiness. So I'm curious, if I had on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0, let's say 0, 0 is like super negative, saboteur, kind of finding the issues with everything, really big challenges, like that negative feeling. And as a 0, and a hyper sage is you are in positive mind frame, creative, optimistic, solution-oriented mindset all the time. Where are you? Drop a number in the chat between a number 0, saboteur driven, and 10, hyper sage. Where are you? Meg, 8.5, that's good. Depending on the situation. Right. Depending on the situation, my response might be different. And I would think about, a 5 would be kind of neutral, right? Depending on the situation, I could go negative or I could go more positive. So there actually is, and I'll share with you at the end of our time together, a saboteur assessment that actually gives you, there's 2 different assessments that Positive Intelligence offers. One gives you a PQ score to get a baseline of how much you are sabotaging yourself versus supporting yourself. And then also there's a second one, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. So it's interesting just to consider, like, where are you on the spectrum? And moment to moment, challenge by challenge, where are you? So we're going to look at these 3 different components and dive a little bit deeper into them. And the first part that we need to understand is to have a clear understanding of our saboteurs. Like, what are the things, what are the emotions that are sabotaging our ability to be at our best? And the number one saboteur we call the judge. Everyone has it. Everyone has a component of themselves that is critical. Now, the judge actually has 3 different modes, 3 different approaches of how it messes with you. The 3 modes is the judge of yourself. I'm actually going to take you off, and I'm going to let you all pop off of mute if you want. What do you think the judge of self sounds like? What would an example be where your judge is impacting yourself? Any ideas? Ruthie, what do you think?
When I think of that, I think of that glass half empty mentality, or almost like the little devil on your shoulder mentality, your own worst enemy kind of thing. When you're consistently second guessing decisions that you might be a little bit hesitant to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A critical voice, right? Becky, what about you? When you think of judge of self, what does that mean to you? How does that sound?
Oh, that's self-talk, what's going on in your head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I try to move away from the negative thoughts into a more positive vein when I catch myself in that negative.
Mm-hmm.
You know, procrastination is probably my worst.
You are about 3 slides ahead of me, Becky. I am going to find you in this next couple of slides. Because you're right. It's that negative self-talk.
Right. You know,
talk of yourself saying, I maybe am not good enough or smart enough, or, you know, whatever those words are, judgment of self happens. Self-criticism. Yes, Meg. The second mode of the judge is judge of others. What might that sound like? What might an example of judge of others be? You're not good enough. You're not doing this right. Comparing success. Mm-hmm. Right? So judging others is still judgment. It's just judging that someone else maybe isn't doing things the way you want them to do them. The third mode is the idea of that we can judge our situation. Anyone have an example of judge of situation?
I would say setting unrealistic expectations or expecting people to meet your expectations if you haven't told them what you expect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that judging a situation with other people, that might be a little bit of judge of others and of the situation, right? Like it can be both. Not enough money, not enough time, right? You're judging your situation. For you, which one of these resonates the most? Does your judge show up more as judge of self and self-criticism? Does it show up more as judge of others and that they're doing something wrong? Or does it come up in your judge of your situation and your circumstance? Judge of self. Majority of people I work with, judge of self is the biggest challenge. Yep. Self situation. The ability to even acknowledge that becomes a superpower. So the master saboteur is the judge with these 3 sub modes. Let me tell you, Becky, about your procrastination. Through factor analysis, there are 9 accomplice saboteurs. These fools mess with us. Accomplice saboteurs are the controller, needing things to be exactly as you want them to be in the right order. The hyperachiever, in order to prove my worth, I need to achieve more and more. The restless, that is someone who can't stay focused on any one thing and needs to keep moving from thing to thing to feel helpful and productive. The stickler needs everything to be perfect. Every I dotted perfectly, every T crossed with perfection. The stickler has to have everything right. The pleaser is going to make sure that others are cared for before they're cared for, and they're going to do things just to please others. Hypervigilant. These folks are going to be paying attention to all that could go wrong. The avoider is the procrastinator, right? Where we don't pay attention to things. We're avoiding things. We're putting them aside. The victim is the, oh, woe is me. The world is out to get me. And the hyper-rational is someone that needs facts and figures to go behind it. So these 9 accomplice saboteurs are the things that sabotage us to being healthy, present, in strong relationship, and having our peak performance. The second assessment, I mentioned the first assessment gives you a score, a PQ score. The second assessment on the Positive Intelligence site ranks these for you. So it's going to help you understand which of these accomplice saboteurs are most likely getting in your way. So in Sarah's case here, the stickler and the hyperachiever are the 2 things she wants to pay attention to. Okay, so that was a little bit about the saboteurs and how they mess with you. That is left brain, okay? The sage is right brain. The sage is associated with positive emotions. Peace, calm, clear-headed focus, creativity. I'm curious, when is a time, what are you doing when you feel the sage is present? Drop it in the chat or take yourself off mute and tell me. When are you most in sage?
When I'm finally getting my work done.
Clear-headed focus, yep. Productive days, yep. I'm usually outside. On the beach, maybe. In nature, writing, creating. When you actually pick up your paintbrush, when you actually go and do your pottery, right? You're activating the sage part of your brain. And the sage part of our brain operates from the sage perspective is one of the tools that we learn. But first, let me read you a story. It's called The Stallion Story. An old farmer's stallion wins a prize at a country show. His neighbor calls around to congratulate him. And the old farmer says, who knows? what is good and what is bad. The next day, some thieves come and they steal his valuable animal. And his neighbor comes and commiserates with him. But the old man replies, who knows what is good and what is bad? A few days later, the spirited stallion escapes from the thieves and joins a herd of wild mares, leading them back to the farm. And the neighbor calls, and the neighbor shares the joy with the farm, or calls to share in the farmer's joy. But the farmer says, who knows what is good and what is bad? The following day, while trying to break in one of the mares, the farmer's son is thrown off the mare and fractures his leg. And the neighbor calls, and the neighbor wants to share in the farmer's sorrows. But the old man's attitude remains the same. The following week, the army passes by, forcibly enlisting soldiers for the war. But they do not take the farmer's son because he cannot walk. And the neighbor thinks to himself, who knows what is good and what is bad? What does that story symbolize to you? Everything happens for a reason.
If you look for it.
Becky?
That you find the positive when you look for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No point in stressing about aspects out of your control. It's a nice reminder, right? So often, stress is created because we want the outcome to be different than it is. But who knows if this is good or if this is bad? So the sage perspective is one of the tools that we work with. And we often ask the question, which is true. Is the saboteur response, this is bad, this is a problem, this is an issue, is that true? Or is the sage perspective, this is a gift, is that true? What do you think? Which is true? Both.
There's truth in both.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And so often, it is what you believe becomes true. If you believe something is bad, 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 then it's bad. If you can see something for the gift that might be created or the opportunity that might be presenting itself, then all of a sudden it's not quite as bad, right? So the sage perspective that we spend a lot of time with in positive intelligence is this idea that every situation can, and every circumstance can be turned into a gift or an opportunity. Let me give you an example. let me give you an example of a regular everyday a situation. You are stuck in traffic. Put my light on for us. Oh, no, I'm not. You are stuck in traffic. You have a choice, and you can get really, really frustrated at something you can't control. Or you could say, what is the gift in this situation? Any ideas what might come from being stuck in traffic? What gift could possibly there be from being stuck in traffic?
You can dry your nail polish.
You can dry your nail polish. You better believe it. You may have missed an accident. You better believe it. What else? What other gifts? You have time to think. Yes. Alone time. You can turn up the radio and rock out. You can mentally prepare for your next day. You can make the phone call you've been procrastinating on, Becky. Right? You can listen to an audiobook. If you're a leader of a team or you have other people responsible for you, and you were moving and going to a meeting, and now all of a sudden you're going to be late for that meeting, what could possibly be the gift of you being late to that meeting? Well, maybe it allows you an opportunity to empower someone else on your team to step up, build their leadership skills. Maybe there is an opportunity for you to start a little bit late, and that was a beautiful gift for someone else that was also running late, right? So when you take any situation, we work to build this muscle that says, how might I consider the possibility that maybe there's a gift in this? Now we start with our muscles and we use small weights, right? If you were building your arm strength, you wouldn't start with a 50-pound weight. You would start with a 3-pound weight or a 4-pound weight. And so when you're starting to practice this work, you start with small things. I got stuck in traffic. How might I convert this into a gift? As your muscle grows, as you continue to do this work, you start to see possibilities and gifts in bigger situations. It depends on how strong your muscle is. And that is what the third part of this work is, and that is self-command. So the idea of self-command is building the muscle within ourselves, within our brain, that allows us permission to choose. And the way that we do this is through PQ reps. So I want you just for a minute to close your eyes. And we're going to practice some PQ reps. Put your feet flat on the floor. And one of the simplest ways to do a PQ rep is to take 2 fingers and simply rub them together. Rub your fingers together with such attention that you can feel the ridges on both sides of your finger. Take your hands together. Rub 2 hands together, feeling the sensations on both sides of your hands. If a thought comes, bless it, release it, let it go. Focus on the sensation. Now, take a breath. and feel the temperature of the air as it comes into your nostril and the temperature of air as it goes out. And take one more breath. And focus exclusively on your breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes and tell me how you feel. I feel less stressed, recentered. 10 seconds. Relax.
Very relaxed.
You don't have to go and meditate for an hour. When you build up tools like PQ reps, and PQ reps can be done in lots of different ways. We did PQ reps through touch just now and through breath. We can ever so slightly slow the left side of our brain in the saboteur and empower the right side of our brain and the sage. If you were actually looking at an MRI machine, you could actually see less activation on one side of the brain and more activation on the other side of the brain. So the PQ operating system is really simple. If you are feeling a negative emotion, stop. You're in saboteur mode. You're in negative mode. You can do some PQ reps, 10 seconds at a time, to activate your sage. And then invite yourself to consider, what might the sage perspective be? How might this struggle that I'm having right now be converted into a gift or opportunity? Is there anything that might be positive from this? And then we look to generate this gift by using sage powers. And, we have this hour today, so we're not going to dive deep into sage powers. But sage powers are things like empathy and curiosity. And there's different tools that you can activate to engage that part of your mind. So I'm curious, what about any of this might be valuable to you? What insight in the last 45 minutes might benefit you?
I think personally, a lot of the problems, I'm going to say problems I'm experiencing, it could be personal or professional problems. It's more of a mindset problem than an actual problem. And this presentation really stressed that the power of mindset is really valuable. And a lot of the times, just by taking, like you said, just 10 seconds to recenter and then try to come at these conflicts with a different perspective can be very valuable.
Mm-hmm. I like the stop the negative thoughts quickly and flip to solution mode. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Penelope. I didn't do too much into this, but we often talk about having your hand on the hot stove. How long, if your hand happens to be on a hot stove, how long is it helpful for your hand to be on a hot stove?
Not long.
Not long. Right? What is the hot stove telling you, though?
That you need to move away.
You need to move away. Get off.
Mhm.
You don't need to leave your hand on the hot stove for 4 minutes to realize that it's hot and you need to stop, right? So when we think about these negative emotions or this feeling of like being hijacked or saboteur, we say, 1 second, it's a really, really important alert, right? Something's going on here. I need to pay attention. But the longer you stay in that negative emotion, the deeper the burn gets, right? The longer you stay in that negative emotion, the less of a chance you have to move into finding a solution. What else? What else about what we just shared, what we just talked through, what insight could be valuable, is valuable to you? Were you about to say something? I encourage you to think about it, right? What about just noticing the judge is helpful to decreasing the intensity of it? PQ reps are a great way to refocus for adults and my students too. Absolutely. You can also do them with sound, where you really, really pay attention to sound. You can also do them with sight, where you really focus on what something looks like, the texture of it, the colors of it. And I would say like 3 breaths per PQ rep is what you kind of would want to do. 2 minutes of a total. So last year, or this spring, sorry, I had the chance, I run positive intelligence pods with groups because this is an 8-week program that we go much deeper into this work. And I have had the privilege of working with some artists in one specific community. And, you know, and I've worked with a lot of other nonprofit professionals where, you know, they take these tools and they learn them, and, you know, they find ways to decrease stress, right? They find tools to live with greater ease. One individual, this is one of the arts participants that just said that she noticed noticeable changes in her thoughts and behaviors, right? It led to positive thinking and choices. She was able to move out of negative thoughts, and she didn't have to linger on that negative thought. Like having the language to describe what was going on was really, really helpful. So if this is of interest to you, I invite you to go to the Positive Intelligence website. There are the 2 different assessments that I mentioned to you. You can take those assessments and check them out. If you want to go and learn more, then reach out to me. There is an 8-week program that hundreds of thousands of people have been taking to build this muscle to support their own greater wellness. What questions do you have for me? I wanted to, yes. Oh, yay. 10 minutes. We wanted to give some time for questions. So this is perfect. Positive intelligence quotient, like IQ, and EQ, PQ is your ability to maintain, the positive intelligence quotient. Someone asked, I missed what PQ stood for. What questions or do you have any curiosities that you want to dig deeper into in these next 10 minutes?
What advice would you give someone who historically has been motivated and has achieved goals through stress? Someone who is so ingrained in that mindset of the toxic, pressure forms diamonds mentality. It's scary to think about trying to make that leap and to be more sage oriented, because what if things just don't get done that way is the fear.
Mm-hmm. My thought for that person, that was me. I was a deeply motivated person that achieved and felt like my worth was tied to my achievement. I have and had anxiety. I have had physical ailments that I believe have come from that deep drive to be successful and to be the best. And my wish for myself in that moment was to start to name it. Start acknowledging that the way that I'm getting towards those end results is harmful. That there's a choice in motivating myself through negative emotions versus motivating myself through compassion and empathy towards myself. I mean, it's a journey though, right? Empathy and kindness towards yourself is probably my life's work, to find ways to still have high expectations of myself. I'm still a high performer. I'm still working with amazing clients, but I'm doing it in a way that isn't as forceful. I'm doing it in a way that is calm-headed and focused and just kinder. So I think recognizing that pattern becomes really important, and starting to ask questions around what about that achievement is tied to your sense of who you are, that sense of identity. What about that is important to you that is making that so important? And how might you still achieve, but take a step towards a kinder approach to yourself?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Look, you can take that saboteur assessment and it'll rank them in a certain order. And you can't tackle all of them at the same time. But you can start to put some intentionality around, in my case, it was the controller and the hyperachiever, right? And the pleaser. I had that too. I had a lot of pleaser. I still have a lot of pleaser. But what I've noticed as I've started to continue to do this work and do PQ reps literally every morning, like I'm doing another advanced PQ positive intelligence course, and they're really pushing us to start the day with 2 minutes of intentionality, right? To activate the one side of our brain to start the day. Because when it's activated to begin the day, it can stay more charged, throughout the day. So one of the things that might also be helpful to you, Ruthie, and to this group, is the idea that lasting change, lasting transformation from being more saboteur driven to being more sage driven, is built partially on insight. partially on the intellectual understanding that we have of what's going on and the ability to label things. But it's mostly built through building this mental muscle, which is the ability to give yourself a little distance and do those PQ reps to center yourself and activate a different, literally a different part of your brain, literally a different muscle. Where's the assessment website? Great question. We'll put it right here. Why did that? Oh, there it goes. Yep, that's it. So that's the positive intent. That's the saboteur assessment. If you're curious about kind of looking at your saboteurs more deeply, take the assessment, and then I invite you to schedule time with me, and we can just spend a half hour together talking about them. You know, what are those saboteurs that show up strongest for you? How are they getting in your way? And then what might a couple tools be to help you, manage them? So that's my gift to you. If that is of interest and you want to learn more, let's spend a little time together on that as it relates to you specifically. And finally, I would just say, I lead pods. I love leading small groups. I love leading small groups of arts professionals. My next arts pod is happening in October. It's an 8-week class. If you want to know more, reach out. And with 3 minutes left, no, I'll let one more. Any other questions? I have one final, most important thing I need to say. But are there any other questions or thoughts? What is the one thing you want to remember as we walk out of this Zoom room today? Mm-hmm. Mindset is everything. Let the judge take a break. Yes. Give the judge a vacation. Go. Get out of here. I sometimes sing to my judge. Some people give their judge a name. Mm-hmm.
I used to have what I call my run away from home days, where I would just plan a day for myself, by myself, and treat myself, soak in a hot tub.
Mm-hmm. Becky, was that special day, was that activating your sage or your saboteur part of your brain?
That would activate the sage.
Mm-hmm.
It would give me perspective to, back off from the saboteurs.
Yeah.
Give
That's
them
right.
perspective.
Mm-hmm. Give them a break. Give them a vacation. Get out. That's right.
And make that important for you too. That's your vacation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I am so grateful to have been invited to spend this time with you today. I know today has been a stressful day with all of the rain, so thank you for showing up. I hope you have one piece of wisdom or a nugget that sits with you. But to me, the number one thing is be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. It's so valuable when we can be kind and have empathy towards ourselves. So many things become possible. All right. Any closing words or other thoughts?
I had just one quick question. Is this presentation shareable? Is this something we could have access to, or no?
Yes. So it has been recorded, and I will take a day or two to send it to our communications team, and it will be posted on our YouTube page.
Perfect.
But I can give the people who registered earlier access to the information. And I wanted to also not only thank Katie for your time and expertise, but also to say that if anyone wants to pursue more of this professional development or any of the others that we have with speakers, you can utilize our arts project support to apply for assistance for funding support to attend those things. So there is some availability for that as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. It was a
Thank
joy to be with you. Be kind to yourselves, and I hope to see you again.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.